Hey everybody, this is Darren Sabedra, Bay Area News Group, Mercury News, East Bay Times, here with Joseph Dycus, Nathan Canilao, and Christian Babcock. It is Tuesday night. We're just wrapping up the regional championship game coverage. It was quite a night in the Bay Area as Archbishop Riordan. They took control against De La Salle in the third quarter and advanced to the state open division championship game for the first time in program history, beating the Spartans before an incredibly electric crowd in San Francisco. Joseph Dycus and I were there. So Riordan will play Roosevelt of Eastvale, which took down Notre Dame Sherman Oaks tonight. So that will be 8 o'clock Saturday night at Golden One Center in Sacramento for all the marbles. We'll see if Riordan can become the second NorCal team to win an open division state championship on the boys side since the bracket was added or the division was added in 2013. The only team to have won one so far is Bishop O'Dowd, the great Dragons team from 2015, right, Nathan?
Yep.
It's been a full 10 years. 10 years. So we'll see what happens there. Joseph, real quickly, let's get your impressions of what we saw at Crusader Forum tonight.
De La Salle took a lead in the second quarter, a 22-15 lead after
11-0 run.
11-0 run. I was like, wow, oh my goodness, it might be happening. You know, it was a packed place at Crusader Forum. I mean, it was standing room only. Darren, you were there. I mean, you could not move.
You could not get another. We had great spot.
We did.
Shout out to Chris Babcock, not our Christian Babcock, but Chris Babcock, who had an extra chair there in that corner, and I was able to sit there. And Joseph pulled out his own chair, so we were courtside in the corner.
We were. But anyways, it felt like De La Salle was going to go. I mean, it was like, oh, De La Salle, are they gonna pull away here? Alec Blair, he was battling on on
1 foot and was
I mean, it was hard to tell because he was hitting some of the craziest like fadeaway, turnaround, like reverse, like crazy.
He showed up to the arena in a boot.
He did.
All the way up to his feet. I mean, a big time boot.
But he was hitting like Tracy McGrady style turnarounds. It was insane. And then Riordan, the defense just showed up, and that was the end for De La Salle. Riordan went on a 20-4 run, and I think Riordan had more blocks than De La Salle had points during that.
It was in the third quarter. Riordan started with a 19-2 run after being down by 1 at halftime. So huge run. I mean, it was just their night. I mean, the 3-pointers were hitting all sides of the rim and going in.
Yes.
I mean, it was at least 2, maybe 3, literally around the rim and in. And the crowd just going crazier and crazier after every shot. So shout out to Riordan. What a night for them. It's a historic night. 5 years ago, they were supposed to get De La Salle at their place in a regional game, and didn't happen because one of the students at Riordan had tested positive on that Saturday for COVID, and this was before anybody was testing really positive for COVID. I mean, it was just starting.
Yes,
and it was about 5 days before the country shut down, and Riordan wasn't able to play De La Salle. De La Salle got a walkover and then ended up losing to Campo in the next round. But 5 years later, De La Salle goes to Riordan, and Riordan gets it done.
I also want to give a shout out to Jasir Redger. He had 8 points, which you're like, oh, 8 points, whatever. But let me tell you, he took that assignment of guarding Alec Blair. He took that thing seriously. He told us after the game that he told the guys he didn't care if he scored 0 points. That his only assignment for that game was guard Alec Blair. And, he didn't shut down Alec Blair because Alec Blair was hitting crazy shots, but he made him work for every point. And I thought it was a great example of senior leadership because he was Texas A&M, and he's like, no, I don't care about scoring. Anyways, Nathan, what game were you at tonight?
Oh, no. Before we start go to Nathan, we want to go to Christian because he has the other open division game, which is Archbishop Mitty. So, Nathan, we'll get you next. Christian, the Mitty girls are back in the open division final for the fourth consecutive year.
Fourth consecutive year.
But really, I believe this is their fifth consecutive NorCal championship, because during that COVID season, I mean, not COVID season, during the right before the pandemic, they won NorCal and then weren't able to play in state because of the shutdown. So this is 5 consecutive NorCal open division championships for Mitty, but this was a nail biter, right, Christian?
Yeah, I think nail biter, as much as it can be said that's an understatement. This was like a heart pounding, headache inducing, all the things. I mean, just to give you some perspective, Clovis West went up 6-2, I think the first minute or two of the game. The game was never closer than 3 points after that until the final minutes. So it was unbelievably tight. The crowd was into it. Clovis West brought a really good contingent up from Fresno area, and it was just tight. I mean, heart pounding. It was a crazy atmosphere. Mitty was able to pull away late. Joseph was talking about how Alec Blair had to work for every point. Every player in this game had to work for every point. The middle 2 quarters, the best offense was putbacks and free throws. And maybe you get an occasional run out, but that was hard to come by. I mean, nothing was working, as far as running sets. Just everything was junked up. Both teams were pressing full court. There were an incredible amount of deflections, steals. Probably the closest basketball game I've ever seen. Every point was so difficult to come by. And Mitty hit a couple threes at the end, their second and third threes of the game. And that was pretty much it. That's the kind of game it was.
So wait, Christian,
go ahead.
Did you
Joseph.
say that it was never more than 3 points in any direction for like the entire game?
Basically, yes. And most of the time it was 2, 1, or 0.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a game. Shout out to Mitty. Having, granted they've got a lot of talent there, but to lose McKenna Velushko and to still make it to the open division state championship, quite a feat for the Monarchs. And then to beat this Clovis West team, which probably thought it deserved to be the number 1 seed and, being undefeated. And they weren't, because Mitty had a resume that included notable wins over national elite teams, including the team that lost today in the SoCal final, Ontario Christian, when McKenna was healthy. So shout out to Mitty. Now they get to go against Etiwanda for the 3rd consecutive year. As we were saying off camera, Etiwanda beat Mitty 2 years ago on a buzzer-beating shot. And then last year when was Mitty undefeated going into that game last year? I'm pretty sure they were, right?
They were unbeaten.
And Etiwanda used that matchup zone and just put them all out.
It was a one-sided dominate. I remember, Nathan, you were covering the game before that, and you came out, I think, while I was
No, I was covering
you were covering the game before that.
Before I came out, in at Golden One Center in the media room, they had a TV up. So I was like working on my story because it was on deadline, and I got it done. And I come out and I look at the TV, and I'm like, "Wait, is that score right? Is it like 16-3?" I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
It was total domination, right?
Yeah. I believe it was Kennedy Smith, right? That was it was really the MVP of that game.
Buff Morris.
Buff Morris.
Cal commit.
She's still there?
She is still there, and she dropped 40 points on Carondelet earlier in the season. So in the Bay Area. So yeah, it's gonna be tough for Mitty, but you know what? They made it. They made it there. They got
something if this is the Mitty team that wins the Open State Championship for the first time in program history.
Yeah, it's going to be a different challenge for him. I mean, Joseph, you asked how good Clovis West is. They're an excellent team. This version of Mitty without McKenna, they pretty much matched them player for player. It was incredibly evenly matched. They have a big center at 6'3", but Mitty, the way they swarmed her in the post, she was pretty, it was pretty much just an even match game player for player. I mean, both teams were subbing 3 or 4 players at a time. Sometimes it was really fascinating to watch how, like I said, really you look down, 9 deep really on both teams. It was extremely close. But yeah, it's going to be a different challenge this weekend. against Ed
Heartbreaker for Clovis West, right? I mean, undefeated and to lose and not get the state. And remember, we talked about this, I think, in our last show. Clovis West is the team that, now Mitty's had the upper hand against them in the regionals, but I think they'd probably trade those wins for the one that Clovis West got in the Open Division State Final like 8 years ago, I think now, or 7 years ago, however long it was.
Yeah,
Right?
I had a good talk with Craig Campbell about, their battles with Mitty. He said, we basically know all each other's stuff. When we play, it's very close because we know what we're trying to do. So it's just who's going to be able to go above the X's and O's. And very gracious interview. And they had a great season. So
Yeah, except for last year's game when McKenna and Chelly, and I mean, it was just total domination. It was, that Mitty team was lights out.
Bramer, Elena Wiseman, that team, all-star team.
Until it ran into Etowanda. So, great job, Christian. Now on to Nathan, Division I boys final in Stockton, and San Ramon Valley, which was rolling, came up short.
Yeah, it was a tough game. The San Ramon they looked really good to start the game. They opened they had a 1-point lead after the first quarter, and they opened the second making 4 straight threes. And you're thinking, okay, like this is San Ramon, classic San Ramon. They're gonna blow this game open right now. And Lincoln goes 17-0 to end the quarter and take an 8-point lead. And then San Ramon did not score a bucket until the 3:11 mark of the third quarter. You talk about a defensive juggernaut. I mean, Lincoln, they did it to Moreau. They held Kellen Hampton to 3 points all game, and they did it to SRV. I mean, Brian Botine after the game was just saying, they just play hard, and they're just a better team. They're a really good team. And I think if you look back at the committee, they went with 5 open division teams for the boys. Well, I know they lost 3 times to Modesto Christian, but in hindsight, they probably were an open team, just based on who they've beaten here and how dominant they've been in Division I. I mean, they beat Clovis West, I believe, by 10 or 11 points. They beat Moreau by a substantial amount of points. Beat St. Ignatius by a substantial amount of points, and now they beat SRV 66-58. But the score, it was really more of a 14 or 15 point win. SRV had a couple of threes late, so. But
if they hadn't lost in their section semifinals, they might have been an open team, right? Because Modesto Christian was picked, right? Did Modesto Christian won that? Well, no, Modesto Christian lost to Folsom, right?
Yeah, so they picked 2 Sac Joaquin section teams. It was at Folsom and Modesto, and then I think Lincoln was on the outside looking in for.
They were going to pick 3. Most likely. That's too bad because then Lincoln. Maybe Lincoln was the second best or the best team out of the Sac Joaquin section. They just had a rough night against Modesto Christian.
Yeah, and the thing with Lincoln is that they're like their identity is built on defense, but they probably have one of the better offensive players in Northern California, in Anthony Moore, and he definitely lit them up. He had 21 points, I think 11 in the second quarter during that run. But I will give a lot of credit to San Ramon Valley. They fought till the end. I mean, they were down 15 in the fourth, and they cut it all the way to 5. With about 25 seconds left. So at that point, time just kind of ran out on them. They didn't have enough to really do anything. But it was a great season, especially considering I don't know if a lot of people knew what they were going to be coming in. They played Lincoln early on in the season, and this was before anybody knew what these teams were going to look like, and they lost that game. And I remember remember telling you guys, I don't know about San Ramon this year. It's just, they started off 6-6, and it's like, okay, but they finished the season on a really high note. I think Brian Botine said they finished 18-4 after that 6-6 skid. So hats off to them. They had to they lost one of their assistant coaches earlier in this year, and they kind of just battled through it. They got to the E-ball. I believe they went to the E-ball semifinals, and they put up a good fight there, and they were in the open division semifinals. So they had a really good run here. And
one went away from repeating as NorCal Division I champs. So
and the other thing I'll add too, it's like they did it they have a 20-man roster, but they only play 6 guys. So
Wow.
And I mean, their biggest guy is about 6'4", and everybody else is 6'2" and below. So they did it.
Are they?
In a way.
Yeah. Kind of like what Granada did, right? Didn't Granada win NorCal, and last year they lost in the final to SRV?
Yeah. So I think Granada 2 years ago was in the state
They
final.
were the Division One. They were the Division One champ 2 years ago, and then last year they lost to SRV.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It'll be a lot to replace too. I mean, they're losing Mason Thomas, Elliot Conley, Thomas
Isaac.
Conley, Luke Isaac, right? Brad Laird, their starting center. So it's a lot. It's gonna be a lot to replace. But that culture seems like Brian Botin has built a foundation to replace all that.
All right. Looks like TKA, a team you've written about, Nathan. We don't have Glenn here. Glenn Reeves covered the game. The story just went live. But TKA was able to hold off a really, really gritty Palo Alto team, and Jerell Clark, who I guess hit some big shots in that game and went out with his head held high after a great performance in a losing effort against the Kings Academy. But we just looked at the pictures from that game, and it looked like an electric atmosphere in Sunnyvale tonight.
Yeah, I think that program is on its way. I mean, if they're this young and they're getting to a state title game, I can only imagine what they're going to look like next year and the year after. I mean, Boss Moon, just looking at some of these pictures, I wasn't at the game, but just looking at some of these pictures, looked like he had a great game, and they just have so many guys who could score. It's hard to stop a team when you get 5 guys who go for 20. That's a really hard thing to do.
Are they going to be an open division? There'll be an open division CCS team next year, right?
I think so. I mean, there's an argument that they should have been there this year.
I'm like, dang, how did they not make the CCS Open this year?
Yeah.
No offense to the teams that made it, but I'm like, man,
Yeah. I know you kind of brought it up, Darren. It sounds like, again, without having watched the game, Jerell Clark making big threes late. That's what he did against Carlmont to give Palo Alto basically any chance to win that game late. So let us not gloss over the season Jerell Clark had. I think he had one of the better years of any player in the South Bay. So great way for him to go out in his career, really improved every year, and this year really took another big step. And I think he is certainly a college player if he wants to go that route.
I'll say something on that too, Christian. I remember watching him play. I think it was Menlo Atherton, one of the CCS maybe finals or semifinals last year. I remember coming away like, oh, Jerell's pretty. He's a good player, but I don't know. He just he could score a little bit, but I wouldn't say he's a top player in the Bay Area. And then to see him go from that to this year, where he's I'm sure he was averaging somewhere in the 20s in points, and now I do agree he's probably a college player. Just a big jump from him. So he had a great year.
I guess my Jerell Clark story, I got to watch him play last year against Gunn, and he basically single-handedly almost brought Pally all the way back from a big deficit against Gunn. So he's a big-time player.
Yeah, speaking of making a jump, I don't know if you guys have seen, but Shay Hammond, one of our great photographers, got a photo of Jerell against Carlmont, and he is, I would say conservatively, 35 inches off the ground.
That's what Mitch Stevens brought up that photo while we were waiting for De La Salle to come out of his locker room tonight over at Riordan. He was like, because we were looking at the score and it was tight, and we're like, man, Jerell Clark's hitting big threes. He's like, that guy, did you see that photo you guys had? He's got some hops.
Yeah, Mitch said pogo stick, I think, to me. It's a pretty incredible display of athleticism.
Wow. We had a few other winners. Carondelet.
That's Carondelet. I doubted them against St. Mary Stockton, but
they got the W.
Yeah. I think I was checking the scores on Max Preps. I want to say somewhere in the third quarter, I thought Carondelet was down maybe 10 or so, and I opened it back up after I finished up talking to SRV, and they won. So very interesting game.
Very interesting. So Carondelet is going to play for the Division I championship on Friday night.
Yep.
We had a couple of other winners. The Half Moon Bay girls got it done against Lowell San Francisco, so they will be advancing to the Division IV final. And Nathan, the Priory boys are going to the Division IV final, right?
Yeah, that's a team I watched briefly at the CCS Division V championships, and I was impressed. So I'm impressed that they. I'm not shocked they got all the way to the state title game. That's it's a big feat. They got a lot of players, a lot of tall players on that team. Yeah.
Am I missing anyone?
Mm,
We had a couple other teams fall short tonight. The Salesian girls came up short in the. We all thought the Carruthers was going to be a tough test, right?
Yeah.
And it proved to be true. The Salesian girls falling in the Division II final. Encinal
My
girls,
Jets,
their storybook run ended against who did they play, Joseph?
Woodland Christian.
Woodland Christian took care of business and got it
Yeah,
done.
Coach Juanita Lyons just sent me their box score, and in true Encinal fashion, Jazzy Alcantara goes out in a blaze of glory with 23 points.
Okay.
Over half their points. So shout out to the Jets. They had a great season. I was really hoping to watch them play in Sacramento, but still
And-
the NorCal final.
And no parade in Antioch for the Cornerstone Christian girls who came up short in D6, right?
They did. They came up short as well.
Anyone,
Great year though.
anyone else I'm missing? I think
Nope,
that was
that's
it,
it.
right?
That's it.
That's it.
So I guess this we're not gonna have a show before the game, so I gotta ask, you wanna pick winners?
Who says we're not going to have a show?
What's that?
Who says we're not going to have a show?
Yeah, that's true. Who says? Although, man, I don't know if we're coming in on our day off on Thursday. I'm guessing we're all going to be off on Thursday. We got a lot of work to do tomorrow. I don't know. Well, let's pick a couple. Riordan, Roosevelt. I'll go first. I think Riordan becomes the second NorCal team to win state. I think they get it done. I'm going to say Riordan 70, Roosevelt 69. Joseph.
Man, that Roosevelt team is good. They're so good. They're deep. With that said, I'm going to be a Bay Area homer. And I'm going to say that Riordan's going to win 62-57. I feel zero confidence in that prediction, but I'm making it anyways.
I don't feel zero confidence. I feel confident. Yeah.
Good for you.
Nathan.
I think you guys predicting that Riordan will get up in the 60s is kind of crazy. I'm going to pick them to win, but I think if they're going to win, there's only like one route for them to win. They're going to have to hold Eastville, who's put up 110, 111. Just looking at their max preps, they put up 111 points before in a game. So I think it's going to have to be something like some crazy defense performance where they win 49-45.
Wow, that's similar to my score tonight. I had 48-44 Riordan. Christian, you want to take a swing at that?
Sure. I will be honest. I know about as much Roosevelt. It's called
Roosevelt of Eastvale.
Okay, I could probably give you a much better dissertation on Teddy Roosevelt or Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Make the pick.
I'm getting there, Joseph. I got to warm up. It's late. Yeah, just knowing what I know about Southern California basketball, I find it hard to believe that Riordan's going to win. So here you go. Joe Curtin, here is your motivation served on a platter. Riordan will not win. Riordan's season will flame out in a blaze of glory. I don't necessarily mean what I'm saying, but it's late, and here is your free motivation. So if they win, I want all the credit.
All right.
For what it's worth, Roosevelt has the 11th best player in the country in Braden Burries.
All right.
6'5" combo guard. So,
do we want to pick one more? Do we want to pick the Mitty girls game? Mitty, Etiwanda, 3. Joseph, will Mitty return to San Jose with his first Open Division state championship?
I feel like at this point, Mitty Etiwanda is kind of like a Fast and Furious movie where the elements are different, can be a little bit different, but in the end, the conclusion is kind of the same. I think it's going to be closer than people think. I think this Mitty team is really scrappy, but I think Etiwanda, I saw Etiwanda in person this year. They're good, and I'm sure they're better now than they were back in early January. So I can't pick against Etiwanda. I've seen them beat Mitty twice now.
Nathan.
Oh, I'm not picking against Etowanda. I'm not doing that. I think Mitty's a gritty group. I like them. I think they've weathered the storm. I just don't see a path for them to win this game. I'm not saying they're gonna get blown out, but I think they're gonna lose by double digits. I'll go 72-59 Etowanda.
All right. I will pick, and then we'll give it to Christian to wrap it up. I think this Mitty team is, like you guys said, scrappy. They're fast. They're athletic. But Etowanda, last year, they showed me something last year. I mean, and, they're going for 3 in a row. And they took down a very good team tonight.
They did.
Ontario Christian. A very good team tonight. So that tells me that Etowanda is probably playing as well as it has all season. And if that's the case, I don't, as much as I would like Mitty to get that monkey off of its back and get that Open Division State Championship, I don't see it happening this season. Maybe next year with McKenna back for her senior year. I think Etowanda is just too good. They will defeat Mitty and win a 3rd Open Division State Championship in a row, which might be unprecedented. I haven't looked, but I can't imagine another team winning 3 in a row since this thing was added in 2013. Christian, wrap it up. Mitty going to win?
All right. So first of all, I'm going to extend Joseph's Fast and Furious metaphor. I think Mitty is sort of like the original Fast and Furious gang. And in this analogy, McKenna Velichko is Dwayne Johnson. And I'm not sure that without all of them together, they can beat Etowanda. I just got a text from Sue Phillips that said we will need to play much more efficiently and disciplined against Etowanda. I agree. I think they will also need to make more than 3 3-pointers. I think we're probably looking at more like 23. So it will take the game of their lives in a different way. I don't think they can just be gritty and scrappy like they were tonight. I think what they achieved tonight on its own is an incredible accomplishment. And I'm sorry to say that's probably going to be it. But I look forward to seeing them try. And if they pull it off, we're going to have to put it on A1. I don't even know. That will be a gigantic, monumental upset.
It will be. And, it would be nice to get that monkey off of the back of the Mitty Monarchs. So we'll see. We'll find out Saturday night, 6:00, Golden One Center, followed by the 8:00 game on Saturday night with the Archbishop Riordan boys. Will be playing the last high school basketball game of the season for California teams when they take on Roosevelt.
And win.
Not Franklin Delano, but who? Roosevelt of Eastvale.
Yes.
Right. It's late. That's a wrap. I don't have anything else to add.
I'll just add that I have actually never seen a Fast and Furious movie, so I was just kind of making that comparison based on what I've heard about the movies. I've never actually seen one of the movies, so that's my.
How many characters can you name, Joseph?
Vin Diesel and The Rock.
There you go. I helped you out with that second.
And that one lady who was on Lost. That's it.
All right.
Anyway.
I think we've lost our way here.
That is a wrap. I'm shutting it down. Stop the record.